Welcome to the Safety Pro Podcast, where we help you manage workplace safety one episode at a time. And now, your very own Safety Pro, Blaine J. Hoffman.
Welcome to another episode of the Safety Pro Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to talk about ISO 45001, and we're going to talk about how you can benchmark your existing safety and health management system against that. Even if you're not pursuing certification, that's okay. We can still take a look at it. It's a good practice. It's a best practice, I should say. Just like ANSI 10, VPP, we're going to talk about how it compares to those programs as well. Now, every day, thousands of lives are lost due to work accidents, fatal diseases that are linked to work activities. We know this. They all can and should be prevented. And ISO 45001 aims to help organizations do just that. Now, whether you're an employee, a manager, a business owner, doesn't matter. You share a common goal, right? We all do, especially safety pros. We get up, this is the bedrock for us, right? This is how we get up in the morning. We to ensure that people operate in workplaces that protect them, that prevent injuries and illnesses. And with the ISO 45001, it's the new standard for occupational health and safety, and has become, when it was, in development, everyone was like just freaking out about when's it going to come out? What's it going to involve? And what does it mean for us? Look, it's clear that safety management systems will become part of the business norm, right? And the business landscape. It's just going to be normal. Other organizations and government bodies in the U.S. have already adopted this for years, the FAA, FTA, organizations like that. So it's important for companies to keep up on the latest developments, because you've got to see this stuff coming down the pike and you have to get in front of it. Okay. One of the reasons why I harp so much on digital scorecards, dashboards, digital EHS management systems, it's going to automate and wrap a lot of this stuff up in one solution for you. And again, not a sales pitch, but I'm telling you, I'll get into this with the checklist. Keep that in mind as we go forward. Now, ISO 45001, the world's first international standard dealing with health and safety at work. It offers a single, clear framework for all organizations wishing to improve their occupational health and safety performance, okay? It's directed at top management of an organization. It aims, though, to provide a safe and healthy workplace for employees and then contractors and visitors alike. So it goes beyond just sort of, in the entrepreneurial space, small business, brick and mortar world, we used to call it 4 walls, 4 blocks, 4 miles, right? This ISO 45001 actually addresses the 4 miles and beyond as well. It captures that. And previous standards did not. And I'll talk about the difference between this and other standards here in a moment. So to achieve this, it's crucial to control all factors that might result in injury, illness, or in, God forbid, fatalities, by mitigating adverse effects on the physical, mental, and cognitive condition of your workers. ISO 45001 covers all those aspects. Now, it does draw on the OH&S 18001, the former benchmark for occupational health and safety. It is a new and distinct standard altogether. It's not just like a dusted off version, revision, or update to the previous standard. Organizations will have to revise and change the way they think about occupational safety and health management and their work practices in order to maintain organizational compliance to ISO 45001. So what are the main differences between OH&S and ISO? There are many differences. The main change is that ISO 45001 concentrates on the interaction between the organization and its general business environment, the 4 miles and beyond, while OH&S was focused on managing hazards and other internal issues. So think 4 walls, maybe 4 blocks, but essentially it's internal. The standards also diverge in other ways, right? So I'll cover 4 main points where they differ. ISO 45001 is process-based and OH&S was more procedure-based. Also, ISO 45001 is dynamic in all of its different clauses. Again, 4 walls, 4 blocks, and 4 miles, so to speak. OH&S was not. It was mainly internal. ISO considered both risk and opportunities, and OSAS only dealt with risk exclusively. ISO included views of interested parties, these other, we think supply chain, how we get materials, products, services, and support, the business relies on to our place of business and interact with it. It actually considered the views of those interested parties. That's what ISO calls interested parties, by the way. I'll talk a little bit about them in a minute, but OSAS did not include the views of interested parties. Now, it's important because these points, they represent a significant shift in the way, health and safety management is perceived in business. It's no longer treated as this standalone department, okay? And, I have an upcoming episode dedicated to this very topic. I'll, spoiler alert, it's coming, but I'll let the cat out of the bag. I'm thinking of some crazy title like, the fall of the EHS department, right? Something dramatic like that to get your attention. But it's true. We need to be integrating EHS roles into other areas of the business as support functions. We should be a member of the, facilities and security and maintenance teams and engineering teams. We shouldn't have our own isolated department that we exist on our own in our own little world. We should be integrated daily, working with, sitting amongst, planted alongside these other business functions as a support to the business. We support these businesses. So that's sort of the key. And I want to talk about that in another episode about how this is changing sort of the landscape of business today. It's very important, and it's actually exciting. If you understand it, you can get behind it. Now, that being said, although the two standards differ in their approach, a management system established in accordance with OSAS will be a solid platform for moving to ISO. Okay. Now, if you are certified to or benchmarked against OSAS 18001, what do you got to do? So when you migrate from OSAS, several steps have to be taken to kind of lay the groundwork before the new management system itself can be established. So I'm going to give you 3 sequences that will help you along your way, and they focus on the big difference between the two. 1, you're going to want to perform an analysis of those interested parties. So you're going to want to look at those individuals or organizations that affect your company's activities, as well as internal and external factors that could impact your organization's business, and ask yourself how these risks can be controlled through your management system. So how can you control a supplier, effectively? And is it realistic? Is it practical? What about shipping? And what about, other contractors you use to make some of your parts or processes to do rework or imaging or quality, testing? And they're not really, they're contract work there, but they're interested parties. You want to look at sort of how your management system will capture them and manage that risk to your organization as well. Number 2, establish the scope of the system while considering what your management system is set to achieve. And this is where you start to build, how the scope of this, how far reaching this is going to be here in number 2. And then the number 3, you got to use that information to establish your processes, right? That's your risk evaluation and assessments. And most importantly, to set your key performance indicators for those processes. How are you going to measure how effective that is going forward, right? Interested parties, that's key. One of the big differences between ISO and OSAS is that it forces you to look at those interested parties. So these 3 steps here, these sequences, if you go in sequential order, perform an analysis, establish the scope of your system based on that analysis, and then use that information to, set up your risk assessments and evaluation and other safety processes and KPIs based on those interested parties, right? So once you've adapted all the data to the tools of OSAS 18001, you can reuse most of that, what you already have, in your new management system. So don't be afraid of, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to reinvent the wheel here. You don't. While the approach is quite different, the basic tools are the same, okay? So don't be afraid of that. So what you need to know about ISO 45001, it just really depends on how much you know about ISO management systems in general, right? Because they're all built on the same framework, right? ISO 45001, it adopts, it shares that same high-level structure the identical core text and terms and definitions with other ISO management systems like ISO 9001, 14001 is an example. So 14001, 9001, the quality management system that you're probably familiar with, and 45001, they all share that same high-level structure. And then the text and terms and definitions and the language it uses, the structure, the way it's written, they're all alike. So that's good. It's bad if you don't know anything about like even 9001 or if your organization doesn't. Chances are, somebody in your organization in the quality department or team, they've either worked somewhere or you guys are 9001 certified. So you have somebody in the organization already tuned to this type of language. You could leverage that. If not, again, it gets a little more tricky, but the standard isn't that easy to apprehend when you read it like a book, right? You have to realize the interconnections between the specific clauses. So the best advice would be find a training course to help you, dive into the standard and understand it. You may even want to look at a consultant, possibly. Be careful with consultants, of course, but I know ASSP offers the no affiliation, no affiliate link or anything like that. I just know that they offer ISO 45001 consulting, assessment, and even certification services. So sticking with that, ISO's common framework to 9001, 45001, 14001, they're all kind of related. You'll use that to establish an effective occupational health and safety management system. And while there's no requirement to certify to an ISO management standard, no government regulation there, there's some argument to be made that, if you're going to be an international parts distributor for this car company or that car, you have to. Okay. So it's somewhat self-imposed in the industry, but it's something to be stated. You don't have to, but you want to compete, you better hold yourself to the highest standard available. Furthermore, it signals to outsiders that you're serious about this stuff. And that's important. That's key. So let's jump into how you can do your own gap assessment to 45001. I have a download for you. There is an opt-in form that you fill in to get the download. That's mainly so that I can see, what kind of action we're getting off this download. It's completely free, no catch, no strings attached. Does ask for your email, and don't worry, we don't sell your email information, and we, not going to spam you. As a matter of fact, you can opt out as soon as you get the download, so don't worry about that. We also have on the safetypropodcast.com page, up in the menu there, you can see our privacy statement. You can read all about that if you're not too sure either, okay? So full disclosure for you. But let's get into this checklist. So it's going to break down the different ISO sections, and the first one is the context of the organization. Now, what do we mean by the context of the organization? So this is 4 blocks, and 4 miles. That's what we're talking about here. Has the context of the organization been determined, like, people, agencies, organizations, that are relevant to the safety and health management system? And this could be parent organizations, regulatory agencies, suppliers, contractors, the community, and even your customers. So you have to take those into consideration. Have you effectively identified the size and scope, the impact or context of your operation? Then we go to management leadership, the next section. Top management has to take overall responsibility for the prevention of injuries. Do they lead by example? Do you have rules that specify safe work practices? Are they developed? Are managers held accountable? It's similar to ANSI Z10 and certainly to the OSHA VPP. You could see a lot of similarities here with leadership commitment. The next one naturally is employee participation. Same thing, non-managerial employees. Are they consulted before changes are made that impact their safety? Do they have decision-making input for safety decisions that impact them? Do they assist in conducting workplace inspections? Are they encouraged to recommend suggestions and training topics? And this is where a digital management system comes in place. If you have a see something, say something app, or your EHS system has some sort of hazard reporting function that has a feedback loop that every time you assign it to somebody or make notes, they get notified, they're kept in the loop, they have an opportunity to chime in, they have an opportunity to report a hazard, and then there's a form field there that's required that says, hey, what do you recommend? Asking them for that recommendation. You're going to nail this. So I'm telling you, the power of, and I'm going to get on this bandwagon again, folks, okay, until everybody joins me. It's lonely up here sometimes. But you're going to need to look at these solutions in a different way. Not just that they're cool and it's cool technology. It's really going to revolutionize the way you manage and engage people. It sounds crazy, but you can use this technology to be more human. Okay, let me repeat that. The amount of time you're going to get back from not having to do these deep data dives and fool around with all these paper processes and scanning and emailing and charting and putting into spreadsheets and pivot tables, the amount of time you're going to be able to get back is going to put you back out on the floor or on the job where the work is being done with the people that matter the most. Okay? Period. It is going to give you the valuable insight you need to take the action that will make a real difference, and that is out there where the work happens. So, all right, jumping off the soapbox here. But look, that's all key, okay? A lot of these sections here can be dealt with that way. Then there's a section called planning. Is the organization's context, size, and scope considered and included in the planning considerations when you're looking at safety and health management? Is there a mechanism in place to address safety and health risks and opportunities? What about hazard identification? What about a baseline workplace survey to identify hazards? How about non-routine activities? And are they included in the evaluation? Do you have a management of change process? You know, this is, again, a digital workflow can really help with this. Is there a process for assessing and determining risk? Hierarchy of controls. Are those used to determine action with regard to hazards and risks? Again, a digital EHS system like iReportSource. If you go and check out their features page and you look at sort of the videos they have, you can even request a free demo. That system right there will net the vast majority of these things that ISO is going to be looking at. Okay, you're going to be able to point to one place where you keep all of this stuff. What about support and communication? There's a whole section on support and communication. Have you determined and provided necessary resources for the safety system? Budget, personnel, access to experts, things like that. Is documentation maintained regarding the evidence of their competence? You can do training records. You can keep a digital, an electronic or digital EHS management system where you can keep people's training records. I know iReportSource, you can walk up to anybody's hard hat or, have a QR code on their badge or something that you just read it with your phone, and iReportSource tells you their training history if they're up to date. It's pretty cool. Are workers told of their ability to remove themselves from imminent and serious danger? Do you have a stop work policy? Everybody should. Everybody should. You can even have a digital EHS system supporting this as well. Not only do I stop work, but I'm going to pull my phone out, bam, with my thumb. One little thumb movement right there. It's how easy it is. And say, got a hazard report, something like that. That's how powerful those systems are, and they can really help you. Documentation, same thing. Is there a system for documenting safety and safety information? You can keep all this stuff at your fingertips. All your SDSs, all of your employee manuals, all your written programs can all be digitally managed and stored. How about appropriate emergency preparedness and response processes? Are they implemented? And again, another thing you can keep at your fingertips right there in this program. I know iReportSource has document uploads. You can have a map of the facility, an emergency evacuation map with a roster. Boom, pull it up, and you have it right there on at your fingertips. And then evaluation. It moves through evaluation and improvement. So you're going to want to make sure a process is in place for monitoring, measuring, and analyzing performance, including a determination of what needs monitoring and the methods for monitoring. Workplace injury illness trends. Again, iReport does this for you. Look for a digital dashboard that can provide this support for you. Is a process in place to evaluate compliance with legal requirements? And then it goes on some other bullet points right there. Hopefully you've downloaded this and you're reading along with me. Then the last section is improvement. Is a process in place for incident investigation? Now, what I will tell you about this is be careful with some systems. Obviously, I'm going to talk about iReportSource, but only as an example, okay? There's sort of a workflow built into their system where you initiate an injury, illness, a mishap, property damage, something like that. And it goes through a workflow where supervisors and other folks associated with that area or that employee, You can even drag people in by naming them, adding them to the report. They have to fill out a root cause form, witness statements, and go through this sort of root cause assessment before you can actually close this thing out. So there is a process in place digitally for this investigation that prompts you to move through this process, this workflow. It's pretty cool. You should ask for a demo if you're interested in seeing how it works. I thought it was ingenious. Most folks, it's just you pretty much fill out an accident report, even online or on your phone, and you hit submit. Then it goes to somebody, and then that person then has to take it and decide to assign it to people or go, and do some more work. It captures it all in one place. So you get to actually grab your team and go and do the root cause assessment and then capture the result of that energy and that effort in the form, in the workflow. And then you could open up any incident and you could see at what stage the whole incident investigation process happens to be at, right? And you could see with some highlighted menu items if it's in the investigation team or if it's in, if it's finalized and closed out, stuff like that. And number 53 on this checklist, are workers involved in root cause analysis and corrective actions? Again, got to get them involved, okay? Does the organization continuously improve the effectiveness of the system, including utilizing workers? These are all best practices. You could hear clearly the similarities between ANSI Z10 or the VPP. It does. The big difference, though, I'll go back to the beginning or earlier, I should say. The big difference is it forces you to reach out beyond your four walls. And you guys, if you saw me right now, I'm like reaching left and right, like you're going to see me. It's funny. I'm going to put my hands down. It does force you to reach out beyond your four walls and get to those interested parties and get them involved in your safety management system in assessing the risk they pose and how you're going to manage that risk with your system. It's a good process. Let me know what you think. If you have any experience with ISO 45001, shoot me an email. The link is in the show notes. And I've had a huge turnout on LinkedIn. I made the mistake of, it's a good mistake, but I made a mistake of mentioning several episodes in a row. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Holy cow. Hundreds of folks have reached out, which is good. I've talked to a good many of you. I try to answer or ask everyone that reaches out, hey, how did you come across my profile? Just because most folks just hit the button to connect and don't customize the message to say, I heard your podcast, I'm reaching out. If you don't do that, I'm going to ask you, hey, how'd you come across my, not in a creepy way, hey, where'd you find me? But I'm curious to see how my social networking is working for me. And so I will ask you that, but I've gotten a good response from LinkedIn. So keep that up. I love seeing everybody's profiles and their experience and background. So that's why I think LinkedIn is the place for us. So I'm going to go all in with LinkedIn. I want to know what you think. How would you feel about a private LinkedIn group for the Safety Pro podcast? Only safety pros. I'm going to try to, only get folks in there that request via the podcast and try to keep salespeople out. No soliciting, no salespeople. It's just crazy. Some of these groups I've joined, it's like the Wild West. So we're not going to do that. I haven't quite figured out that part yet, but I think right now, my MVP here is just the idea. So I'm going to float it out there. You tell me what you think. If that would benefit you, we could share ideas and concepts and best practices and continue the conversation on LinkedIn that, I enjoy having one way, talking to my wall here on the podcast. Hopefully you enjoy listening to it. But look, reach out. Let me know what you think. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. And don't forget to download this checklist for ISO 45001. Let me know what you think. And hey, I look forward to hearing back from you soon, either email or on LinkedIn. And until the next Safety Pro podcast episode, be safe.